Hello and welcome to the Talk Villa podcast. I'm your host Samit Paul, and after a slow start to our summer transfer window, things have certainly started to pick up over the past week or so. Unai Tielemans has completed his move to Manchester United, Digne is expected to join Paris Saint-Germain, and Villa are said to have won the race to sign Johan Manzambi from Freiburg. We'll get into those two exits and what the potential arrival of Manzambi brings to the team and all the other transfer news in today's pod, as it's now just a week until Villa are finally back in action as we start our pre-season schedule at Warsaw. So if we start with Digne, it has been widely reported that the Frenchman is set to join Paris Saint-Germain, who have triggered a release clause in his contract which will see him move on for a fee under £10 million. Now firstly, credit where credit is due. I've not always been convinced by Digne personally, but he has proven to be a very reliable and consistent presence in the squad, and he's fended off competition for that starting role at left back throughout his time with us, whether it was Alex Moreno first or then Ian Maatsen. He has always been a trusted option for Unai Emery. So it has to be said, he's made an important contribution to our success over the past few years, and we can only wish him well in the next chapter of his career, having played his part in bringing Champions League football to the club twice and then delivering silverware with the Europa League trophy last season. That said, of the two exits that we're going to talk about today, this one makes more sense for me. He turns 33 next week, and although it was reported that he took a pay cut last summer to stay on, he is still likely to be one of the top earners at the club, so shedding his salary off our wage bill will be an important move, and hopefully it moves us closer to adhering to UEFA's financial regulations. Additionally, although he did struggle to fully convince last season, we do have Ian Maatsen now ready to step up and make that starting spot his own. He's had time to adapt to Unai Emery's demands and the style of play, and hopefully we'll see him now kick on and really impress and show more consistency, both defensively and going forward. What I would say though is that we do need to bring in competition to keep pushing him and to rotate if we're to compete across multiple competitions again next season. Speculation has suggested that Pervis Estupiñán is the man to provide that. Emery knows him from their time working together at Villarreal, and granted he hasn't been playing at the level he reached during his time at Brighton, he's got the experience of playing in Spain, Italy and England, and he is seemingly of the same mould as Maatsen in terms of what he can provide and the attacking threat that he can give us. So it could prove to be a sensible addition if a deal can be struck with Milan. But as far as Digne goes, thank him for his service, but I think it's the right time to move on, reduce our wage bill and clear the path for Maatsen, and hopefully it helps us to compete in the long run as part of a rebuild that could now pick up pace this summer. So now on to the one that really hurts. It's the one official move so far, and that is Unai Tielemans has joined Manchester United. Now, I don't really want to speak on it being Manchester United as it is what it is. I'd rather focus on us and what it means for Villa. There's no getting away from it that this is a massive blow for us, in my opinion. I've said it in my newsletter this week that for me personally at least, there's a temptation to sort of build this narrative in my own head that, oh, Tielemans is 29 years old, he's had injury problems, and you can look for excuses to justify this being a sensible move, if you like. But for me, I just think we are going to miss his presence and influence in midfield badly. Tielemans' technical ability, his intelligence, his leadership, quality and tenacity were a huge part of why we've enjoyed success over the past 2 years. He's established himself as a fundamental figure for Emery in dictating and controlling things in midfield. And although it did start slowly for him in his first season with us, he grew into that deeper midfield role and he became a pillar of this team. So that's the main thing for me. We've now got a massive job on our hands in finding his successor, as he was our chief orchestrator and he's going to be sorely missed. That said, to look at it from a more positive angle, just as Emery did with him over the past 2 years in developing and improving his game to take Tielemans to the next level, and just as he did in fairness with Douglas Luiz before that, there is full faith that Emery will identify and find a replacement in a player that can kick on and become a pivotal figure in the Villa 11 moving forward. The £35 million fee is another contentious aspect of all this, as it feels far too low for a player of Tielemans' quality. But once again, there was a reported release clause in his contract, which was triggered by Manchester United. And so effectively, it became out of our hands once that bid was made. Now, there was reporting that we did want to offer him a new contract, but we were perhaps holding off on offering new terms just to see how our summer played out in relation to our financial restrictions. But if we potentially weren't even able to facilitate a pay rise for him or afford what he was asking for, then I think it's understandable why he has moved on. Personally, I don't want to see any hate for him or Digne moving forwards. Tielemans has obviously delayed or perhaps isn't planning on posting a message thanking Villa and the fans and everyone for his time at the club. He has commented on Villa's post on Instagram saying thank you very much, Villa. But I think you would expect a little bit more from him, just a little sort of tribute post. But if it doesn't come, it's fine. I get it. Losing Tielemans to Man United opens up old wounds and whatnot of our players going there in the past. But simply, Tielemans was so instrumental in some of the best years we've had at Villa in recent times. And so I personally would just prefer to wish him well. Hopefully, we're in an even better position moving forward now if we can rebuild without him. The next one up is Johan Manzambi. Now, there's a tinge of hesitation here, as although it's been heavily reported that we're finalising a move to sign him and that he's scheduled to have his medical on Thursday, the deal isn't official yet, and I would hate to discuss him, and then it turns out that he's not coming. But based on the assumption that the deal will go through without any late issues now, this is a brilliant signing from Villa. It's reported that the fee will be north of 60 million euros, and so it remains to be seen if we've already made the necessary sacrifices to afford this move. But Manzambi is the exact profile of player that we should be targeting, and it makes sense financially too. He's physical, he's athletic, he's powerful, he has pace, he's versatile, and he looks to be a great fit for our style of play with his ability to turn his man and break at the opposition with pace. So I think it's an excellent addition for Emery to help him develop and become a really important player for us in the long run. We've seen Emery work wonders with so many players now since he arrived at the club. And I think with Manzambi's profile, his age, I think he's just primed for Emery to work his magic once again and to take his game to the next level. Financially, at 20 years of age, you wouldn't think he's on astronomical wages at this stage of his career. So hopefully he falls into that new bracket of what we can afford and that we aren't stretching to bring him to the club. And as I say, he's only 20 still. And so hopefully we have him for the best years of his career. And then if he impresses with us, his valuation is only going to continue to rise if we have to sell in the future. I know that's not something that we should be thinking about or even shouldn't cross our minds, but ultimately that has been the case in the past. I think every box is ticked in this scenario, so it doesn't completely wipe out the blow of losing Tielemans. I know it's not the same position, but Manzambi is going to be a marquee signing if it goes through, and it certainly softens the blow of losing Tielemans for me, provided that it goes through, and hopefully we're able to identify and sign more young talent like him who have proven their talent already and shown potential, but then it's over to Emery and his coaching staff to help them take that next step, as I said. So there have been other moves from Villa over the past week or so and potential deals to be completed soon. Sil Swinkles and Louis Barry have both joined Sheffield Wednesday in permanent transfers. The latter made headlines in particular. It emerged in reports that he was earning around £35,000 at Villa, which is horrendous given he was never really threatening to make a sustained breakthrough at senior level. He had his moment, of course, against Liverpool in the FA Cup. He showed his ability and his talent and potential at youth level for us. He was instrumental in our success there. But that really is terrible money management on our part if that is the case. Having said that, again, it's that situation of just they're now out the door. We wish them well in the next chapters of their career, and it certainly makes sense for Villa to offload them on a permanent basis, and hopefully we'll enjoy the benefits of that moving forward. Elsewhere, Lewis Dobbin is reportedly set to complete a £9 million plus add-ons move to Southampton. That is a fantastic fee to collect for him off the back of an impressive loan spell at Preston last season. Given he's unlikely to feature for us, getting that money in to sort of make our money back and then to have that available, moving him off the wage bill, fingers crossed that all helps to free us up financially in the position that we're in today. We get some more flexibility when it comes to making our own moves, and so I'm personally really impressed with that one as well. The expectation is that we're going to see a lot more business from Villa in the coming weeks, both incomings and outgoings. The players who didn't feature at the World Cup are now back at Bodymoor Heath to start pre-season training. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to face Walsall in the traditional pre-season open to kick off our preparations for the new season. So it's disappointing to lose stalwarts who were so important to us in recent seasons and as part of our success last season in particular. But I think it's also exciting to see who else now arrives and how far this rebuild goes this summer. There's still speculation surrounding Morgan Rogers, whether or not he's going to move on, and that will bring in a massive fee if he does. Damian Vidagani has cleared up the future of Emiliano Martinez and has essentially ruled out an exit for him this summer amid speculation linking him with a move to Juventus. So that's Martinez staying, if we can believe that, and that nothing changes moving forward. Who else potentially goes? What does that mean for our wage bill, the transfer fees? How much does that free us up to go out and spend big on more players? I think we're going to have to prioritise that void that Tielemans leaves behind now. Yes, we've got a massive boost in Boubacar Kamara returning from injury. He started pre-season. He's expected to feature heavily throughout. Amadou Onana we've now lost for what could be the entirety of next season. The expectation is that he could be back in March, April time. Whether or not Villa risk bringing him back at that stage, and if he's ready, if everything goes well in his rehabilitation, we'll have to wait and see. But that surely has to be the priority. Yes, we've got Ross Barkley, Victor Lindelof, who was brilliant in the back end of last season. But for me, you need that orchestrator, metronome in that position that Tielemans was in, and who can do that job as effectively, if not better than him, for years to come. So we'll see what Villa do on that front. So what are your thoughts on Tielemans and Digne leaving? Are you excited by the expected arrival of Manzambi? And who else would you like to see Villa sign this summer? Throw me some names to fill that Tielemans void in particular. But generally, let me know your thoughts. If you're listening on YouTube, leave your answers below. For those listening to the pod via Apple Podcasts, Spotify or other means, please head over to talkvilla.substack.com and get involved in the conversation over there. So that's a wrap on this episode of the Talk Villa podcast. A big thank you, as always, for taking the time to have a listen. Please subscribe to the pod or channel depending on where you're listening. So that's either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube or wherever else you get your podcasts from. Give the episode a like or leave a positive review if you've enjoyed it. And there will be plenty more content over the summer, as there will be no doubt more transfer speculation and preparation for the new campaign. You can also sign up to the Talk Villa Plus newsletter on Substack, which gives you ad-free Villa news, opinions and analysis, all of which is delivered directly to your inbox. And there is also an option of a paid subscription for bonus content. All the details will be in the description of this podcast, but for more, please go to talkvilla.substack.com and subscribe. So that's it for this episode of the Talk Villa podcast. I'll be back again if there are any major transfers that take place in the next few days. Otherwise, the next episode will be out after our game against Walsall, where I'll share my thoughts and takeaways from that game, as it's always interesting to see who emerges as potential surprises to make a breakthrough for Emery in the upcoming season. That will be the case throughout pre-season. I'll have reaction to every game that's on the schedule, and that's all leading up to the new season, where I'll have plenty more content coming your way. But for now, enjoy the last bit of the summer before Villa return. Enjoy the end of the World Cup. Hopefully there is even better news to come on the transfer market moving forward. But until next week, up the Villa.